make it out. I'm making some claims that are pretty outlandish, but I can back them up. Boom. End of story. There is no other crypto out there, so don't get it twisted. If you don't understand where you're parking your money, you're gonna pay the consequences for that, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. Boom. We're obliterating everybody, literally. There is nobody else that comes close to what Hex has done. Boom. Oh, it's about to get funky. Funkier than you could have ever imagined. You know, Richard Hart is a boss. Hex is literally the best thing on the planet. It's simple mathematics. Right? The reality is that I want to be rich as fuck. There's only one way to be rich as fuck. That's by sitting on your ass the longest. Yep. That's it. Yep. That's the secret. The guy well told you. Richard done told you. I done told you. Kareem done told you. Maddie done told you. Everybody done told you. Everybody done told you. These motherfuckers still acting like they don't know. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
100% safe. There's plenty of games left.
Valiant done told you. Yo, everybody said it. Man, hey, you know what it is, man? Everybody done told you. Y'all's deep. Everybody. My God. Ex-Asians, bro. Everybody. Australians, man. Everybody gets me. Yo, when it's a told you. Dollar told you. Everybody done told you. It's crazy. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Got my man Crypto J with me here. This is gonna be. What's up, man? How you doing?
Excellent, man. Excellent. Excited for this.
Yeah, this is gonna be good because we're gonna take a new bent. Because this is gonna be a little more, I guess, laid back, not as advanced per se, but more in line with what's actually going on. As you guys know, anytime I've usually done a macro talk stream, it's because something literally happened in the market that's important and all of this stuff. But a lot of the times the topic is a little too ahead of where we need to be, right, to kind of understand it. So I have to run through this whole thing and it becomes this whole 4-hour thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to chop it up, right? We're going to do this the more structured way, try to probably do 2, maybe 3 macro streams a month, maybe it just depends what's going on. And I think the times when we will have more than 2 in a month will be during the quarterly events when there's a lot of data coming out, like maybe this month, or I mean January, because that's when the Q4 data comes out, stuff like that. But we're gonna try to make it so it's more palatable and it's not 3 hours of gun hole material.
Yeah, I think an hour in and out would be good.
Right. Try to keep it so that it's digestible, basically.
Yeah, I think so.
We want people to just learn. We don't want to just sound like smart guys that ain't doing nothing for anybody. So,
well, I think that if I could just jump in,
sure.
I think that us as educators in macroeconomics and crypto, you're going through your own phases and levels, right? Mm-hmm. And we were just talking about this in the green room. I'm constantly up against a few different things. I'm up against my own emotions. I'm up against how I personally feel about what's going on. I'm up against those things. And then at the same time, trying to gauge and calibrate, well, where's everybody else at that's listening to me? How are they feeling right now? And how are they going to receive this message? Like, communication is actually tragically difficult because we're constantly trying to balance how fucked up I feel with trying to make you feel better and understand my points and understand what I'm saying. And mostly that's why communication, I feel like, has devolved over the last 18 months, is because the lockdowns and all the bullshit going on is there's like this fracturing that's occurred of 2 layers of truth. It's like the actual truth based on facts and things that we all remember it to be. And then there's just all this other muck and bullshit over here that everyone just decided they want to be true. So they wished it into existence. They wish this alternate reality into existence. And it just doesn't work like that. So communication is devolved because what you've got is two opposing forces, each screaming at each other, and neither one of them really understand the other side because they don't want to.
Right.
So like if we're to communicate on these streams, and this is like a huge experiment, and if this goes well, then we're going to start doing these on a regular basis. But yeah, like for communication, it's extremely difficult, and we're going to do our best to communicate our points. But like, you know, to kind of explain how I am as an individual, and I've been like this for a really long time, is that like the first couple times through, like maybe the first 5 or 6 times through with somebody, like let's say I'm dealing with them one-on-one, I'm going to be super cordial. I'm going to have tons of patience. I'm going to overly explain. I'm going to keep backing up and backing up and backing up to try and catch the point of understanding where they're going to grab like what I'm talking about. But then I'm going to start, my patience are going to erode, right? And then I'm going to start to change my tonality because communication is all about emotion. So the more tonality I add, the more likely you are to react, right? So my communication is going to morph into what I think could possibly work to get you to listen to me, right? So maybe I start yelling, maybe I start, you know, going off on and being super dramatic and over the top, just because I'm going to try and measure like what's actually going to work with this individual to get them to listen. And I'm going to just keep experimenting with this until I find something that works. Like that's how I operate on a one-on-one individual basis, just so that everyone's crystal clear on this. And I think you're widely misunderstood in this sense too, is because people like want to play these different positions against you, but they really just don't understand the tragedy of what you're up against and what we're all up against, which is that the financial markets are not fair. They're created to extract maximal value. And sadly, the people that sit at the top have no fucking clue what they're talking about. And so it's like, how did I just say it to you in the green room? Is it's like you're a sponge, and the monetary policy and financial system just drains you, and it extracts all the value from you, and you're left being this dried out sponge with nothing left.
That's it, man. I mean, it's interesting.
That is what we're at right now.
No, it's interesting, right? Because it's kind of like what I told you before we went live, and it was a simple realization that the more I learned about the financial system and how it operates and all of these intricacies, the more I realized that it is itself the problem, right? People are under this impression that the system is designed a certain way and all this and all that. And while, yes, that is true, it's only partially true because you're missing the whole other side of the equation. And that's actually the biggest side. Because if you don't understand why you're wasting all this time working a job, well, you're just going to continue to do that. You're not going to find an alternate source of income or try to find a way to move yourself into a better position so that you can make an investment or whatever the case is, right? And a lot of this is tied into the emotional aspect of how they teach people to view money, right? I mean, they don't even teach us anything about it in school. We have to learn from random people on the internet. How crazy is that?
Which before the internet, which I'm an 80s kid, so you know I'm pre-internet in that sense. Like I remember what they used to tell us in school, which was like how rare it was to actually be successful. They used to always harp on like it's, you know, there's like less than X% of being successful as an individual, and you really had no one to like check with those facts up against, right? Like you do with the internet. It's like, well, I mean, it's not as bad as they kind of made it out to be. It's kind of funny how we transition from that. It's like as a kid, it's dream big, do it, you know, think you can do anything, you know, believe you can be anything and go anywhere, etc. And then as you go through the education system, you are further and further eroded down into, no, just get in line and shut up. No, that's actually what you want you to do. Just get in line. Right? And so pretty similar to like those beliefs are carried on through to crypto. And so a lot of this, unfortunately, is unlearning bad habits so that good habits have space to grow. You know, it's like, what's that Hindu proverb? If your cup is full, there's no more room or something like that.
Correct.
And that's true. And so it's like, so we've all got full cups. We all think we know what's going on.
Yeah.
And especially now with internet age, it's like, oh yeah, we're all experts. right?
Yep.
But unfortunately, what that blocks out is new information, and
Correct.
it doesn't have time to bypass the critical factors in your brain because your opinion is already made up.
Right. I mean,
So
it's so true, right? Because when you sit here and you think about what you think you know, and you keep actually digging, right, you realize how little you actually do know. And I think that that is one of the major things that kind of put me in this space where I can mentally think whatever I want and accept whatever I need to accept at that point in time, because the information I just received makes it make sense, right? And it's like, well, we're told all these stories and all this and all that, but what percentage of those stories are actually real, right? How much of that information can you actually verify? And I mean, and this is one of those things, like, it reminds me of my college days and how much of a waste they were, right? And that's primarily because when you sit there and you think about what you're taught, every time I was taught something, I went in because I was interested in the subject matter, right? I wanted to be a PhD economist. This is what I wanted to do. So I'm not the type of person that likes to wait on what to do or whatever, right? I'm gonna try to learn as much as I can so I can have an intelligent conversation, whatever happens. So I was always ahead of the curve, always, doing more than I needed to. So with that came the realization that, what we were being taught didn't really make sense, because I'm not slow. I know how to learn. And what I came to realize is that a lot of the logic used in the things that we're taught are, they're full of fallacy, right?
yeah,
I mean, it's like this whole notion of basic economics 101 and how the human is a rational actor. That's so
yeah.
far from the truth, right?
Oh yeah, and it's unfortunate, but it is. So it's like we were talking about this, and I wanted to kind of pivot here. Is like I don't know what it is about macro, but I love it. I can't like pinpoint exactly what it is, and I think it's just because in 2017, like many of you, I lost almost everything, lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Betting the wrong way, not understanding how market cycles work, and not understanding that there's people, nefarious actors or just people who want to take profit, and everything in between within the crypto space. I just thought like, oh, we're all in this together. Like I thought it was this honest and pure thing. Talk about being naive, right? And so ever since then, I got this obsession with just understanding how things work,
Yeah,
which
that's
leads
funny.
you to the unfortunate truths that it's not set up to be fair. It's not set up to make
Correct.
sense either. It's
Yeah,
set up to extract maximum value. That's
right,
it, nothing more.
right.
So I
I
don't think
mean,
that's the best system. It's the one we've got.
right. I mean, when you sit there and you think about it, right? We've both dabbled in markets for a while. The one term that comes to mind every time I hear or think about something like this is the term max pain,
Yeah,
right? And max pain is that level where the markets just go and go and go until you think they can't go anymore, and then they go a little bit more, just enough to make you press, stop loss or
yep. Hit sell.
whatever,
It's the
just to,
minute after you sell it.
yeah, it's that moment that after you sell it, that's it. The market goes your way and it never looks
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
And that's what markets love to do, and people don't get that. And I mean, it's kind of like people buying Bitcoin at 66, 65,000. I mean, they're 10,000 down right now, and they
yeah.
thought it was going to 100,000 or 80,000, whatever number they thought, right? Not realizing that, this move has been happening since 3,000. What do you think?
Yeah, like talking about catching, like what part of the trend are you catching right now? You're catching
Exactly.
probably the Pico top, right? And
Mm.
like this, I don't know. I just want to take another step back here for a second. Is like
Hmm.
I take this shit very serious. What we're talking about, and I think that's why you and I get along so well. Is because like I get jacked up when we're in the green room. Like my heart starts racing, not because I'm nervous to come on stream, but because I know it's at stake. I know what we're doing. I know what we're after. It's like once you start to get some of these pieces and put them together for yourself, you realize what's at stake,
Right.
and everything's at stake, right? And I know you're like this too. Like we gotta take this shit serious as we can, because and have laughs along the way, of course, but there's a lot at stake with what's going on, and as you can tell from the world around us now, is that they will take more. You give an inch, they take a mile, is that saying?
100%. 100%. I
And
mean,
that's what we're living now.
people don't want to believe that either, right?
They
I mean,
don't. They don't.
look at what they do, right? It's a give and go seesaw type of situation. Um, And no matter where you look, right, the rules are constantly changing. Look at all the people going to the Hex birthday event in the UK right now,
Yeah.
right? I mean, the rules were one thing 48 hours ago, and then 36 hours ago they changed,
Yeah, I
right?
heard
Like,
about that. And they skied it in there, man.
yeah,
Just slid in there. A couple of them from what I
yeah,
heard,
a
which is
couple of
great.
them, but
Yeah.
it is what it is, and this is the thing. It's because we allow it. Simple,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And this is something that is almost impossible for people to believe, right? And yes, it is free, dude. It is free.
So, and here's why they don't want to believe it is because when you actually say that out loud, you're admitting that you're complacent in a power grab in this situation in something that you don't agree with. So, what does that naturally do? When I admit it out loud, my subconscious starts to already footprint ways that I should be combating this, ways that I should be standing up for myself. Every childhood memory of where you didn't stand up for yourself and you got your ass kicked in the schoolyard starts to replay. Every time maybe your dad hit you with the belt, the memories start to replay in that moment of you admitting that right here, right now, you're once again not standing up for yourself. That's the problem. That
Right.
needs to be addressed and tackled, which is like one of the things that I've consistently said through since about 2019 with the crypto market and with the markets in general is that we're not dealing with any sort of crisis except a mental health crisis in the world.
Correct.
And the
Correct.
mental health crisis is that there's too many people with emotional traumas and mommy and daddy issues from the past that they have not resolved and cleared out. And that is now driving and dictating their life. And they're just too afraid to admit it.
Yep. Unfortunately, that's a sad fact. But it's hard to tell a grown individual that unless they just understand it or allow themselves to be shown how and why,
Yeah.
right? And that's the issue, right? Because for a lot of people, they're gonna take that personally, blah blah blah. And it's not about things being personal. It's just about simply this is what's going on here. This is why. And and I've talked about this before. It's like if it's not something that's common to most people, for some reason the burden of proof is on the individual that doesn't agree with common sentiment, right? And
Yeah.
that's a flawed narrative. That's a flawed view, right? Because the reality is that the championed narrative or the common narrative is just what most people think. It's not necessarily been proven true either, right?
Yeah.
But you're just accepting it to be true because everybody else is. So it's monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
And people have to realize that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Okay, so do we want to kind of pivot now into talking about some macro? I've got some stuff I wanted to share. I don't know what you've got. Do we want to get into like consumer data, ISM data, and all this recent
Yeah,
stuff?
we do actually, because we want people to understand like what the legacy markets are looking at, what
Yeah,
they're thinking, so that they can understand what's coming, right?
yeah,
And let me explain why. Um, so like for me, right, like my time and doing all of this stuff and understanding all this, it goes back to when I was 17, because when I was 17, or when I was 17, I found myself in Iraq trying to understand why the hell I was out there, right? So it's kind of like what you were talking about earlier, Jay, where um, that need to understand, that desire to figure it out, right? So you wouldn't make those kind of bad decisions again. That's kind of been my whole existence, right? And crypto
yeah,
has given us the opportunity um, to position ourselves for a power move, right? A power grab of our own, so to speak. And this is why it's so serious to some of us. And while for others it's just a pastime, and that's fine. But understand what's actually going on, and if you don't want to, just get out the way because you're gonna get ran over anyway. So it's just people have to understand what is actually going on,
yeah.
right? And
And,
that's the
and
objective,
at the macro level, right?
right?
Because that affects hex. That affects everything.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
right now, I don't think we're in an investor's market. We're in a trader's market. And the
Yeah,
only reason why we're in a trader's market is because inflation is too high. Okay,
correct.
so let's unpack this a little bit. Goldman Sachs, since the beginning of the year, was calling for 2.2% inflation by the end of the year. They finally admitted 2 weeks ago that they were wrong, and that inflation is getting out of hand. We had Jerome Powell finally say that he's going to stop using the word transitory, and talk about the fact that he's going to start aggressively tapering. Okay, let me explain something. QE is quantitative easing. That means they print more money. QT is quantitative tightening, which means they burn more money or they get rid of money out of the circulating supply. Tapering is taking money out of the circulation, essentially, because it's tightening the money supply, which they have to do because when you go out and print 40% of the circulating supply of the US dollar within 12 to 18 months, you have to then do something with that. As that money starts to come back home, you got to get rid of it. Because if you were to raise interest rates with the current amount of cheap money that's been pumped into the system, you will create a system that's unsustainable, because it all of a sudden the debt load, the national debt load, becomes greater than GDP to a degree that can't be caught up. Okay, so that's why they have to constantly be playing this game. So why can I make a statement like inflation is causing people to hunt for yield, which has sparked this entire last piece of the move, and why I think we're at like probably a pico top to a degree, is because when they go and print all this money, and now people have kind of devalued the value of money, and they need to get a return on that, right? So whether it was the stimmy checks, whether it's the continued unemployment benefits, whatever it is, right? They need to go and cash that in and get some sort of yield to feel like they're getting ahead. Or maybe they're just lazy and they want to park their money somewhere and get ahead. So none of that is equating to long-term value. And the value of, from a PE ratio, from just a basic fundamental ratio, everything is out of whack right now. The valuations that tech companies are getting, and now it's moved into the crypto sector, is like the valuations are too high. So it's like if we just step back and look at this, we look at 2021, we have two things happening simultaneously. We have record high valuations across the boards in traditional markets and now crypto markets, because yield needs yield. Yield is going to hunt for yield, right? And investors got to get a return, and fund managers have to get a return. They have to keep up with their 10% guarantee, whatever guarantee that they're putting out there, right? And so it's natural that it moved into the crypto space. So we have record high valuations hitting in traditional markets. We have Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, the two richest people on the planet, cashing out record high amounts into cash, realizing gains into cash.
And people think that's a cool thing.
Yes. And now you think that Bitcoin's going to hit 100,000 or a million? Funny. Some of the projections I've seen is like, we got to talk about time duration here, because yes, while Bitcoin could hit that at some point in its existence, like we got to talk about time, like when that's going to actually hit, or when the probabilities of that hitting are. So when it comes to market cycles, it's much harder to try and figure out where we're going. It's much easier to try and figure out where we're at.
Yeah.
And so I just explained where we're at. We're overextended. Everyone's hunting for yield. Personal savings are down, right? Consumer outlook is down because they all think that inflation is going to go higher. They're seeing it on the price of the turkey for Thanksgiving. They're seeing it on the regular household cleaning supplies, because all those prices have gone up.
Yep.
So you tell me how this ends. Well, it ends with, a lot of these bubbles having to mean revert or go back to some sort of normal level. JP Morgan said their estimates are that the S&P fair market value right now without inflation would be about 2,500. Well, the S&P is what, 4,400 right now?
4,600 or something like that.
I don't really pay attention to it that often. Outside of as a proxy to understand what's happening with Bitcoin to a degree. So, yeah. So, I mean, like, look at what I just gave you. Like, we could end the show right now.
Yeah, literally. That's the funny thing.
There's the macro outlook. There's the macro outlook. So, I was just going to say, is don't try and focus on, like, today's the day. Today's the exact day that the top is going to hit. No. It's impossible to do. I think that's a masturbatory game. So instead, just try and recognize where we're at. And like at some point, that's going to become true. And it's going to be sooner than later.
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, about a month ago, what I saw was a letter going around, a memo that went around, and it's from the DTCC. And if you don't know who the DTCC is, that's essentially the only entity that owns stocks, actually owns physical stock certificates in the U.S. So if you have a TD Ameritrade account and you own Apple stock in your account, you don't actually own that shit. They do. DTCC, the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, if I remember correctly, is the abbreviation for that entity. Anyways, long story short, they essentially determine the basically the quantity of margin debt in the United States financial markets to a certain extent. And on October 25th, they sent out a note letting people know that as of October 29th, certain caliber of collateral would start meeting or would start getting certain haircuts in terms of valuation. So what that means is if you have any ownership of any asset that is collateralized, meaning it's not owned in cash terms, then you got to pay up the cash relative to what that haircut on that collateral is going to be. So if you're using a position to fund it and it's funded 100% with this collateral, and all of a sudden they cut the value of that collateral down by 20, 30%, well, that means you have to come up with 20 to 30% in terms of the value of that asset, right? So, what have we been seeing lately ever since that memo has gone out, which went into effect October 29th? Well, interestingly enough, the market did keep going up into the end of the first week of November, but ever since then, it's stalled out. And
Yeah.
now, what we're seeing is the market is actually below the low of that week when that letter was sent out, which for the SPX was 45.37, and right now it's trading at 45.12.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because if we look
Very.
at Bitcoin, Bitcoin's top was like November 9th, I think, and that even looked like a complacency pump to me. Overall, like I think we were talking about this before. Is like let's unpack like the last couple weeks. Why did the markets just dump, especially cryptos, just dump on Thanksgiving? Well, if we've got our top around November 9th or 10th, I think was the date on Bitcoin itself, and the momentum in that move was not there. There was no momentum to that move, meaning that it happened off of low volume and it happened off of fewer players in the marketplace. So there's no real positive news hitting the markets, right? And consumer data just released, I think, like a week ago. And all of these things were kind of hitting right around Thanksgiving. Well, notoriously, Thanksgiving is a really bad day for Bitcoin. Usually dumps. It's
Yeah.
because there's nobody really watching it. Everyone's with their family, and traditional markets are closed. So it's like, what else do you do? I don't know. Apparently, a bunch of people take profit or try and purposely dump the market. But if there's no real true direction or sentiment in the market, and things are feeling heavy, well, then all it takes is a fart and it blows it over.
Right.
And so in this case, all it really took was no real players in the market, and a bunch of fundamentals start to hit, and there you go, right?
Literally.
So whether or not the fundamentals, like this is always the common argument, do the fundamentals matter more than the technicals? I argue the technicals matter more than the fundamentals because you see the technicals first, and people are price and price is people. So you're seeing the shit in the chart that then the headlines print. So it's like
Right.
it all works in tandem together. So in that case, like the technicals showed us low momentum on that move. How can we make an all-time high? Go and look, just add MACD to your chart, which we'll show if you want. I can show some charts and we can get into some TA stuff. But
Yeah, sure.
like the move itself, there was no momentum there. So that was your indicator. How can we make all-time highs with no momentum? You can't.
You can't.
So it's a false move. Fade the move. Fade the move means position yourself against that. Protect yourself against that move. So yeah, I mean that there was right there for all of us to see, and then the fundamentals kind of started rolling in. Hillary doing two unprompted talks about Bitcoin being the greatest threat to the U.S. dollar in a
Yeah.
week. I
Yeah.
mean, like add it all up. India, which I'd love to see that survey data. Like, what did they go and find all the people that use the Hawala system to say they hate
Right.
Bitcoin? Of course,
Oh
they hate
my
banks.
God.
They don't need any of that shit. They just go and trade cash hand by hand.
That's
So
it.
I'd love to see where that survey data actually was from. But the point is that it hit, right? And the markets don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you had that initial thought because most people won't have that initial thought. Well, I would love to see the data that gave them that result, and that's the right statement, right? Because that's the whole problem with everything that's going on, whether it's Rona or not, right? All the data is not good data. So what you
No.
get is shit results, right? I
Yeah.
mean, this is why they even have to. I mean, what happened to the flu? It magically disappeared all of a sudden.
Yep.
It's been gone for 2 years and nobody talked about that,
Yeah.
right? How
Yeah.
does that work? Don't get that shit, right?
Magic. Poof, it's
It's
gone. All of a
magic.
sudden it's
Yeah,
gone.
it's just
We
gone.
cured the common cold, man. We are getting there.
It's
Mars is
crazy,
just
bro.
next week. It's just
Yeah,
around the corner, I'm telling you.
right. But hold on. Have you seen the latest? Let's talk about the latest before we even get into technicals and charts.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
let me actually share the screen so people can see because there is a lot going on, and this is interesting because this is basically them letting us know, excuse me, that we won, right? So this is important for the crypto community, and nobody's talking about this because who the fuck pays attention to the Fed and crypto? People in crypto don't know shit.
No, man, they don't. It's the next thousand X gems. You got to buy this. You got to FOMO in, bro.
Right.
Get that
Yeah.
yield before it
Yeah.
goes away.
So
Come on,
funny,
dude.
isn't it? It's so funny how oblivious.
So let's take a quick sentiment check in the chat. How's everyone liking this so far? How's everyone liking this conversation? Maybe the way we're having this conversation. Do you like this better? Do you like what we're doing here?
Yeah, give us yay or nay. Let us know what's going on.
Yeah, you just sent me this link. I haven't looked at this, but there's a few of these drops lately. So let's dive into this.
Yeah. So I mean, this is really simple. The way I look at things is very straightforward. Um, I'm not making like I don't even need to read this. I already know what this is saying, right? And the reason I already know, like I haven't read it, and I sent it to you early in the morning. The reason I didn't read this is because the headline tells us everything. Why central bank digital currencies? What do you mean why? You were talking shit about crypto for the past 10 years.
Yeah, yeah,
So clearly we won because why all of a sudden central bank digital currencies? It's very simple, right? Very, very simple. And when you sit here and like ascertain the simple fact that now all of a sudden why central bank currencies when you can literally look up central banks negative Bitcoin. Let's see what comes up.
everything.
Can Bitcoin kill central bank? Bitcoin turns lower as Fed chair suggests inflation. Da da da. Can da 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 impact the Bitcoin on central banks? Why are governments are wary of Bitcoin? And look, this is from 2015, right? This is from August or April 2015. So this isn't like I'm making it up. Um, this is just what the sentiment has been since inception.
Yeah,
Right? Central banks attack Bitcoin, praise CBDCs. So again, why central bank digital currencies? And the funny thing is, again, every currency is digital already. So what are you exactly saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right?
And
You're not really saying anything.
I got another headline to add to it from today. Bloomberg Crypto Bank Indonesia molds digital currency as a way to fight in quotes crypto. There you go.
Wait,
There's your
what?
answer. Bank Indonesia molds digital currency as a way to fight crypto. That's the headline.
Crypto?
Yeah.
Moles crypto? What? Moles
So
crypto to fight crypto? Oh, moles
yeah.
digital currency? Oh my god, what is this shit?
So mold something that they've already got to fight
Yeah,
something that they've already got.
that's why I was confused because I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah, there it is. There you go.
Yo,
Right? Like,
so
what are we doing here?
but this again, right? And this is I've showed this to some of the community before, and how they move in concert, right? Everything that they do it in concert, and you start seeing it in waves in certain parts of the world, and other parts, and other parts, and other parts. So this is not surprising anybody that's watched any of my previous macro streams because they've seen that all of these countries are really just taking command from the central bank, right? The central bank, right? And this is
Yeah.
what we're seeing here. Whether it be the BIS, IMF, doesn't really matter. They're all really part of the same team,
Yeah.
and that's something people need to understand. And if if you've been around, you've seen me talk about all of those entities before. I did a whole little stream on them, so go back and check it out if you're new. And it's not quick, but it's full of information that you're gonna need. if you want to understand any of what we're talking about. Because here's the thing, right? We're making it so that you can get the important information and go do your research. Understanding this information isn't just going to be by hearing us talk about it.
No, it's
If
not.
that's the case, it's going to take you a few years to get there, right? You got to put in some effort. You got to look up some definitions because this isn't boilerplate English, right?
Yeah,
This is not boilerplate
the
English.
issue the issue is that it just takes so long to let these things digest and then form new beliefs and worldviews and ideas essentially. And so it's like you go through, like I talked about in the beginning, like we're all going through different phases of this, and the phases kind of work cyclical in a sense, because it's like just when you think like, okay, I'm calm about what's going on, I can convey my message properly, and everything's good, there's another fork wrench thrown and there's a new level to be digested, right? Because the hunt is endless to figure out what's going on and to be able to position yourself so that you can thrive. Because like there's two sentiments, right? There's this sentiment of like, let's burn it all down and start over, and that's a really dumb sentiment,
Right.
because what you'll lead to is war. That leads to
Right.
war. It has to, because there's no choice, because you can't just burn it all down and then all show up at the courthouse building across the entire planet and then try and now communicate and have a conversation about what should we do next. It just doesn't work like that with
No, it
large
doesn't.
groups of people. It can't.
No.
So instead, it's like you have to really figure out how to work within the system. And so that the levels of understanding and then fighting with your own emotional blocks and things, bullshit that's coming up to that's blocking you because you don't like it or because this that, right? Like that's the journey. That's the journey we're all on. So we're just here to provide information, and you can take it whichever way you'd like it, right? Like some people take offense, some people are gonna this, some people are that. Like, oh well, right? At
Yeah,
the end of
a
the
lot
day,
of people are going to take offense, which is funny because we're just trying to help, and nobody really, takes anything any kind of way. It's kind of like, shout out to Green Dave Power for the $5 super chat. Appreciate you, man.
yeah,
We're just trying to share information that we all need and want, right? Because at the end of the day, like I've already gone over CBDCs and I've already said that this was coming. So this isn't even a surprise if you've been following me for as long as I've been streaming. Because this little map, I've showed it to you before, and I don't even think anything has changed. If anything, maybe they added a couple countries in Africa.
yeah.
But everything that you're seeing here, this has already been in the works for at least a year because they already had a paper come out a year ago. Same little funky map, China, Russia, they're all doing their own thing. And at the end of the day, they want CBDCs because they want the ability to control and be able to have access to your money, right? I mean, you already seen how they're trying to do global capital gain, unrealized capital gains tax. I mean,
Yeah.
that's crazy, right? I
So,
mean,
okay, so going back to that headline, if they've already got a digital currency, why would they create a digital currency to fight the digital currency they've already got? Well, it's simply because right now they've got a fiat system which has cash, and you can hide cash, and you
yep.
cannot pay taxes on cash, and you can, do different things that is perverting the system that they created, and they don't like that. So by creating this whole narrative, they now get to say, hey, we're being innovative, we're going green, the climate change narrative fits into this, blue-haired weirdo narrative fits into this, all across the internet. So we can all come lock arms, celebrate together, because now we've gotten rid of the dirty dollar that's going to carry around Corona. But what you forgot is that they now can track every single in and out movement, and we can shut down the network, we can roll back the network, we can do whatever we want with the network. You've already seen that with crypto. So what's going to stop them from doing it? It's exactly what they're going to do.
Correct. Exactly.
So there it is. There's the narrative in
It's
a
not even
nice bow
debatable.
wrapped for you.
Yeah, it's not even debatable. I
No.
mean, they always do this, right? And it's typical. It's kind of like with the whole nomics thing. It's exactly like that. You had the clown running around a month before he actually did anything, acting like that was fooling anybody, when we already
Mm-hmm.
knew it was coming. Anybody that's
Yeah.
been around the block already knows what time it was, and exactly as expected, they changed the definition of market cap to suit their whim. And it's no different here. right?
Yeah.
Digital currency. Well, how many times have you held $1,000 in cash in your life? A lot of people can't say many,
Yeah.
right? Because it's typically swipe, 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 right?
Yeah.
And it's that simple. So, what digital currencies are there not already? Every currency is digital.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So it's
agree.
yeah, so it's understanding those little terms that kind of set us apart from understanding what's fake and what's not, right? And that's hard for a lot of people. A lot of people get confused with words, and I think it's
Well,
important for people to realize that
yeah, what I would add there is what's unfortunate and I see happening now is that we're changing definitions of words.
all the
So it's
time.
further diluting the
Yep.
value of the English language by us now saying that, like just look at how many different definitions there are for a consumer, a creditor, a debtor. Like I've been jumping into consumer finance law quite a bit, which has to do with like when you care about your credit score in America, which that whole system is hugely discriminatory and I think largely a joke. But if you be a good boy and you dot your I's and cross your T's, then they'll give you a little bread, and then you can go and buy more bread, right? And so when you start to dig into that, is what you have to be mindful of in that is the syntax that they're using and the way that they're defining you as a whatever, like individual, as a I think in one of the sections that they talk about you as a breathing, like a breathing organism or something, like some weird definition for like a person, right? And then they've got multiple definitions within that within the different pieces of legislation to protect the consumer. They've got different definitions for the word consumer. So it depends on what subsection you're reading. You have to look at the definition of that word to understand who it means in that situation. So that's just one small sample of this. So if it's happening over there where we're getting multiple definitions for one word, then you can assume it's happening in other places. And that's some of the things that you got to pay attention to with right now, right? Is that just the redefining of words is a dangerous thing.
Yeah, I mean, when you sit there and think about what you just said, it kind of makes me realize something that most people just aren't gonna probably think about at first hearing. And it's just how you don't even have control of your own language, right? Even your own language is used as a tool against you,
Yeah.
right? Like a lot of people don't realize that, but that's exactly what that is because you can't even sit here and say, "Hey, this word means that," because you actually don't even really know what it means. Like the word "nice." Most people assume it to be a good word, but it actually is a derogatory term.
Yeah. Yeah, like what nice means is
Hmm.
it means talk in a good tone, be overly patient, uh, yeah, be weak, be submissive,
Yeah, basically.
like abide to this fake narrative of like win-win within
Yep.
the conversation and the dynamic.
Be nice.
Deal with my bullshit, but I might not deal with yours.
Correct.
Like, yeah, like who'd want to agree to that? I say be a good person, don't be nice. Being nice is sucker's game. Be a good person. There's a
Correct.
huge fucking difference between the two.
Yeah, and that's why you got the saying that nice people always finish last, right? That's where that
Right,
comes.
100%.
Yeah, that's where that comes from. But it's just one of those things, right? It's so easy to get carried away in what you think you know, and it goes back again to your cup being full, right?
Yeah,
When it's really not, right? Like your cup is actually empty. You just don't even realize it's empty.
yeah,
So what are you gonna do with that, right? Like, and then for me, it was a big shock, right? Because it's like the further I went, the further I had to go. It was never ending, and it was kind of crazy because where do you go when there's nowhere to go for information? And that's a lot of the real world, right? And the fact of the matter is, like, we're looking at these charts, right? And we have conversations about data and how important data is, and that's why this whole thing about definition of words and things of that nature are important, right? It's like when I was first learning economics and I was trying to really understand GDP, and then I realized that GDP was farce, right? Just like every other economic metric, right? Because, and I've done streams on this also where I show how every economic metric is a farce because at the end of the day, what's being measured is the inflationary value. So it's always going to look good if they can make it look good.
Yeah, or
Because
they'll just remove data points
or they
from the set
remove or
itself.
they just change the definition of the
Yeah,
formula. Like
yeah,
CPI is no
like
longer
CPI.
CPI.
Yeah, like true CPI from the original formula from the 1980s is at 15% right now.
There you go.
But you wouldn't
So
know that. You wouldn't know that if
no,
you know,
you wouldn't.
like
Most people
somebody
don't.
fresh coming out of school, right now, you don't even know that.
Yeah,
And again,
no, there's no way.
if you consider yourself clued in, right? You watch your Jim Cramer or MSNBC Fast Money, you think you understand and you've got a grasp on what's going on, but you're just seeing what what the illusionist wants you to see. That's it.
That's literally how it's designed. So,
Yeah.
and that's the thing that people got to understand. A lot of this is meant to make you feel foolish once you discover it, right? I mean, it's kind of like, wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, look, um, even though you think that, you know, you don't actually know what they're putting in that data. Like that's data that's manhandled. You're not curating it. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not putting it together. Don't believe none of the data that you see because none of it is true. All of that data is there to fit a narrative. And the sad fact is that when you get a nasty miss, it's because it was that bad.
Yeah.
Like it's always a lie. Like there's a reason they changed the formulas. It's not because it's to benefit you. So don't
Yeah,
give
and
it to them.
even I would argue that even okay, cool. So you're right, and everything in the survey is true. It's still
Well,
going to give you,
it's an
well,
assumption. We don't know how they
yeah.
tabulate that data. You know what I mean? We don't know that.
All I was going to say is that like it's still giving you a piece of data for yourself to identify where we are in a trend, and again, make your plan because like I don't know how to present this. Because I'm kind of at a loss for words for it. But again, let's just assume that everything is true that they're presenting you for the data. Is you're still going to get to see how that either converts, meaning that it goes along with price, or is a lead indicator or lagging indicator of price, or diverts from price. So regardless if it's true or not, doesn't really matter. It's going to give you a piece of data that you can then use to make a decision. So it's either going to move with price, lag from price, or divert and go in the opposite direction of price. So a lot of times, like what we talked about earlier, like with Goldman Sachs, for example, they were way off on inflation. So it's like, okay, whether they're relying on the data or not actually doesn't matter. Like, what did it tell you? Well, it told you that they were all undershooting this. And the hint of this and I guess the additional indicators that you could have found to prove this was just how bad funds have been doing this year. And since Corona hit, they've all pretty much been doing really badly in the markets because it's showing that they fundamentally don't understand the markets, right? So, okay, again, assuming it's all true, who cares if it's true? I don't. Is that it's giving you a piece of data that you can now make a decision off of, correct? And if we pay attention to that data long enough, we can see the patterns. And that's where the value actually lies. So don't get caught up in like true, false, who cares? Like look for the patterns, right? I think that's
Right.
a
It's
better way
always
to
about
handle that.
patterns. Yeah, it's always about patterns for me. I mean, and that's why I've always been a proponent of understanding ratios and what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
Because ratios are always going to give you the clue of who is doing what and how they're doing it. You don't have to take anybody's word for it. You just go look at the damn ratio and that's it, right? And this is how I figured out a lot of the things that I know. A lot of the things that I know are just by doing the math, because nobody's out here giving anything away, let alone how to get rich, right? I mean, and this is why, buying and staking hex is always a preferred method because it removes all that guessing that needs to happen on a consistent basis, right?
Yeah,
And
and
and, and
you're never going to get it all right. So why try?
never,
Like, do you
yeah,
really need to like prove that point to yourself or to the world around you that you're the oracle and you've
yeah,
proven you've mastered the markets?
yeah.
There's just no point to that. So earlier I mentioned that it's a trader's market right now, not an investor's market.
Hmm.
So um, Hex does solve that to a degree because it's like just go open your stakes, and whether the thing goes all the way down to a penny in this cycle, who cares? Just buy more. And then by the time the market cycle comes back, like you're not even cashing out for 5.5 anyways. So it's like, what
A
do
lot
you
of people
care what it
aren't.
does over the next 1 to 3 years? from a price standpoint. From a price standpoint, it
Yeah.
doesn't actually matter till the day you're cashing in, correct? Okay, then. So
Correct.
why are we all stressing out about this dip or what just happened with it? Are you cashing out today? If so, then you got a valid argument. And but if not, then just chill out, because you're
Right.
trying to play an investor game in a trader's market, and it's going to take time for that to, it's going to take time for the mean to revert. Mean reversion, look it up. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, Dow's theory, 50% theory. All these theories exist for a reason. And it's just simply
Yep.
to tell us that when things overextend, they have to come back down. So you will
Simple.
live through that. Like, you'll live through that. And with your hex stakes, you're going to live through the mean reversion. I guarantee it, especially if you got 555 opened up in the last year. You are going to live through this this bubble reverting.
So look at this chart I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at the S&P 500 all time. Um, at least as far as all time is concerned on this chart. And I have the 13 days per candle. Okay. So we're looking at the 2000 top right here and the 2007 top right here. And currently, well, we had a nice spike down in 2015, or this is early 2016, isn't it? Nah, it's like end of year 2015, really is what it was. Yeah, it was really end of year 2015, first week of 2016.
And that was from the Asian market dump, in case anyone
Yeah,
doesn't know.
that
Go
was
back and look.
China. That was a
Yeah,
China
that was
issue.
China, which
Yeah,
is
that
why
was a China.
nobody invests in a stock market in China. They all
Mhm.
invest in land, which is why the Evergrande
Hold
situation
on.
was so
You
big.
remember you remember when the Chinese A market was gonna be the next big market back in the early 2010s? Yo, that was funny. That was when I was first coming into the market. That was some funny
Yeah,
shit. Cause I
yeah,
remember the CSX 300. It took off. Like I was
yeah,
like, damn, I wish I would have caught that trade because it did it was almost like a little slow wedge, kind of like this, but just more flat. And it
yeah.
just ripped, man. It must have went like from 3,000, like 27,000. I can't even remember, but it was some crazy number. But that was a hell of a trade. Yeah, like I've never forgotten that trade. That was a hell of a trade. But just look at how this market is making these new highs, and the MACD is just not coinciding with this move whatsoever. Just like you said,
Yeah.
right? This is a month. This is early September. We're now in early December, and the momentum has only gotten weaker and weaker. And this is the S&P 500 now. All right, so new highs, no momentum, typically equals distribution, folks.
Yeah, so like that MACD is momentum. That is the sentiment right there. That is how people are feeling about the market. So when price is going up and sentiment is going down, well, what do you think is occurring? Like and now let's coincide that with some fundamental data. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos have been selling. They just
Right,
sold recently. Again, billions of
right,
dollars
right,
more.
right. Let's look
Okay, so
that up.
there's your fundamental to match up. When did he just sell? I think it
Uh,
had to do with that tweet. He's hey, should I sell
yeah,
a bunch of my shares
yeah.
on
He
Monday
sold
or
like
whatever?
the last I saw when
Yeah,
I
five
saw it,
billion.
it was a
There it
one and a
is.
half billion, but here it's saying 5 billion. I'm wondering
Is
how
that for
much
the
it really
year? I
was.
think that's for the year.
I don't know. Let's
On
see. You know
Wednesday.
what?
Yeah.
Let me search past month.
So that coincides with what we're seeing in momentum.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a bunch
So
of rich guys getting rid of their stock. That's
that's one
typically
of the
how tops are made.
yeah, exactly. And that's one of the easiest things you could look at is
Yeah,
just look at any oscillator, RSI, MACD. You could look at what is it, OB. You could look at any of them really, but RSI and MACD are the easiest to look at, and they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you the story of like what the momentum is doing right now. Yeah.
yeah, and then and I actually even did couple streams on how important sentiment is, right? And you can get sentiment from anywhere, right? You can get
Yeah.
it from headlines, you can get it from Twitter, you can get it from how people are reacting, or you can get it from something as simple as your mom asking you about Bitcoin when she doesn't even know anything about it, and you know it, right?
Yep.
That typically means that's the top or something crazy, right? And I mean, this is what lets you know what's going on in the market, not a chart, right? Like a chart, like, all right, let's break this down. Let's go 3 days. What's the day? The 11th, the 1st of December, right? And what's that? Hold on. What is this? November 10th. All right. So where was the market on November 10th? The market on November 10th was still looking mighty fine, right? It still looked all right, but it was just them selling.
Yeah. So we started to see positive momentum waning, right?
Yep.
Bullish momentum waning, which is why if you look down all the way at the bottom on the MACD, we got two different colors of green and two different colors of red, right? Shades, let's call it. And so strong, like dark green means strong, right? Dark red means strong. Green is up, red is down. Yeah, very simple. And then
Yep.
we got a midline there. And so what happened was right at that point was the top of the green thick momentum, and it started to show the weakness. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
then the headlines pile in, and again, once again, you have a coinciding of fundamental and technicals all hitting at the same time, telling you the story. Momentum was weakening, coming into a week of holidays, coming into what was supposed to be the largest spend week of the entire year
Of
for
the
most
entire year's
retailers.
Black Friday.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
So I mean, it's
Um,
like okay, like it's puzzle pieces, and it's your job to put those pieces together and then make a decision based off that.
that's right.
Or just chill and stake because your shit ain't coming out for 10 years anyway. So who cares what's happening today? Like
Correct.
really,
Which is the easier move, right? Because let's take a look at this data that we got to deal with here. And I'm sorry if I'm missing any good chats, but I'm working and doing this and talking
I'm not
about
looking
this
at
shit.
all. Yeah, I'm not looking at all. It's fine.
Yeah, it's all good.
Just
You
heads
don't
up.
got to. Uh, Compound interest and how to do math when calculating stakes. You got to go back to the early videos, Lola. I'm not trying to be rude, but you really got to go back to the early videos because this stream here is specifically like macro related. Like we're talking about macro related topics and why you need to understand that Hex is a good tool to be invested in. For you to see those kind of basic things, you got to go back to the early videos because that's like very low level information because you got to at least know what compound interest is when you're trying to invest money. You shouldn't really be investing money if you don't know these basic terms. By yourself. So you got to go like do that work, that leg work. That's the kind of leg work that needs to be done if you want to get to the point where you can just talk about what compound interest is, right? So I'll give you a real quick definition of what it is, and you have two types of interest. You got simple interest, which is just the money you put up and the money it earns, and then you have compound interest, which is when you put up money, you earn interest, and then you take that money that you earn interest on plus the interest you earn, and then earn interest on that total sum of money, right? So instead of just making money with $100, for example, and making 10% interest, which gives you 110, instead of just doing that and that alone, in compound interest situation, you would do 110, take it and reinvest it again for another 110, and then you got 200 and whatever that number is, 221 or whatever. So that's compound interest. Instead of doing $220 over two investments, you got 221. So that's the advantage. You get more for your buck. Oh God, this
And over time, it becomes deadly. So I
yeah,
don't know how you are, but how I am with like bigger subject matters is once I've kind of talked about it and expressed it in the kind of video and format that I want to express it, I kind of close it off in my brain. So for me, a lot of times it's hard to go back into stuff unless it's fresh and it's like one of my common talking points. It's really hard for me to go back and like get into the depth of what I was talking about in that video because it's just kind of closed off in my brain and I've forgotten about it because I just don't have the space to remember everything about everything. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like
No,
right
I
here, right
just
now, I don't have that space or capacity.
yeah, no. I think it's more of you know, there's certain things you should just know, right?
Yeah.
And when you're playing certain games, right? Like you're not going to be playing baseball, not knowing how to throw, not knowing how to catch, not knowing how to hit. You're just not doing it. You understand? So you should not be investing or doing anything with money if you don't know basic monetary concepts, just basic concepts of finance and economics. You should just not be investing because you're just setting yourself up for a problem.
Well,
And
disappointment, really.
yeah, and it's not to be rude, but it's just how it is. You have to respect yourself, and that is the same as respecting your pocket, right? So being honest with yourself is a big thing when it comes to making money. Because if you're not, that's going to cause you to lose money. And this is a function of that, right? And this is why knowing something as simple as the difference between simple interest and compound interest is important, right? You shouldn't come to YouTube to watch a macro stream and ask a question of that type because that's clearly not what's being discussed, right? And again, if this was that type of stream, not a problem, right? But you got to make sure that when a topic is being discussed, that's the topic that's being discussed, and then that's the thing you want to ask questions on, because you're just trying to take the conversation where it doesn't need to go, right? And
Which works.
everybody,
Which
yeah,
works. So
which
kudos.
works,
Yeah, let's pivot back. That's
right?
good.
But the whole thing about it is to build the point, right? And the point
Yeah.
is we're talking about concepts that are a little more advanced. So asking something basic like that shouldn't even cross your mind because we're not going to answer that, right? So that's just a fair warning, really. And this is like as good as it gets. Next time we're just gonna ignore that shit, because again, you got to understand where you're standing. That's the only way you're gonna progress. So, you know,
Yeah,
uh,
fair.
let- yeah, let's look at this data here. So we got these PMI numbers. Now, what is PMI? Let's look it up. Actually, we can click on the thing, and they should have all these beautiful sources for us. So I don't even gotta search for shit. Hold on, let's see. Yes. Thank you, Jesus, as they say. All right. Let's see. Where do they put the thing at? Do you remember? Ah, here we go. Uh, okay. Yeah. So, Purchasing Managers Index, right? This is basically a survey that goes out across the nations, certain businesses, whatever. Um, oh, apparently they're doing 40 countries. Sorry. I was thinking of something else. Um, Now let's see what the methodology is. So here we go. In a panel of around 800 manufacturers, the panel is stratified by detailed sector and company workforce size based on contributions to GDP. So the survey responses are collected in the second half of each month and indicate the direction of change compared to the previous month. So long story short, above 50 equals growing, below 50 equals not growing
Or shrinking. Yeah.
or shrinking. Sorry, simple enough. Um, and what we had this month was relatively bad compared to what the market has been used to seeing in the past recent. Wow, this is too big of a chart.
So so it posted what 58.3 I think for
Yeah,
this
hold
month.
on.
Go up to the
I think it was
go for it.
50. Yeah, 58.3. Yeah,
Yeah.
and last time it was 59.1. And then, but that
Which
was the expectation also.
Yeah, which might sound like not a big deal, but these headlines do matter because then what's going to get printed off of this is 11-month low, lows not seen since 2020 in this data set, and so that most people are headline hunters. So this is going to affect to a degree what's going on, but it does kind of carry over sentiment. Um, I didn't expect this to be so bad, but I think what's still happening in the U.S. is that there's still the moving back to whether you like the mantra or not, the USA built, bring it back to the US supply chain, and a lot of that is still occurring. Like the investment has just been made for a lot of these companies to build huge infrastructures in the US, and that's going to take time. So, being able to be more independent of, essentially China with a lot of goods, material goods, metals, etc., is going to take time
Yeah,
within the U.S., right? But it does speak to, so like what's really going on here is that um, we just haven't gotten a supply chain issue back here, right? It's just not back to the U.S. yet, and so it's just
right,
another soft market in a stream and plethora of soft markets,
right,
market data rather.
right. Am I on mute? I'm not on mute, right? Nah, I'm not on mute. All
No,
right,
you're
good.
good.
All right. So that's the thing, right? Like you sitting here and you're looking at this data, you're seeing that it's just gyrating back and forth between 50, 60, 50, 60, 50, 60, 50, 60. And anything above 50 typically signifies growth, right? But then when it starts touching 50 and it breaks below, all hell is breaking loose. Like the world is ending. Like that's exactly what it feels like because that's how the market reacts, right? And this is how it looked during this point in time. And this is the Rona dip right here,
Yeah.
right? This was during the recession, which was a prolonged drop all the way into the 30s. I mean, people hadn't seen that shit since ever, so it was big news all the time. And these are the kind of things that generate and drive sentiment. I mean, imagine being the guy buying stocks when everybody was throwing them away. I mean, you couldn't fucking pay somebody to buy it. You couldn't. You couldn't pay people to buy stocks. That's how much nobody wanted anything to do with stocks, and it was the best time to buy stocks. Same thing during the Rona dip. Best time to buy Hex, Bitcoin, everything, right? Whatever you bought, you freaking up from that point. And this is the whole thing about sentiment and understanding how data just doesn't matter. What you need to understand is when sentiment and data has hit extreme levels, and they coincide. So if you understand that we won, then you understand what the mission needs to be from here on forth, right? Like this is a vindication. This is vindication for us because they're now saying we have to enter that arena. This isn't them saying that you guys are fucked. No, this is them saying we have to enter your arena.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what this is
100%.
saying. Yeah. And a number of central banks have stepped up work on central bank digital currencies, which is funny. But all that really means is that they're trying to find a way to interject themselves into our system because there's no way for them to actually do it. What are they going to do? Set up wallets? Like, what are they actually going to do? There's nothing for them to do. All they got to do is get a MetaMask and get to work, buy and sell, motherfucker. Like, what else are you supposed to do? Right? Like, what is the central bank supposed to do here?
Yeah.
It's weird, right? Like,
It is.
it's
It
nothing to
is.
do. All you gotta do is go get the little MetaMask, dude. Take care of your business. That's it. MetaMask.io. You're welcome. Come on, get out of here.
I
So
don't know.
something's funky.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes like the just the general ignorance of things that are discussed and dropped as like bombshells by like mainstream media, banks, etc. It's like always, it just sometimes takes me by surprise. It's just like really people are kind of buying that, huh? People are believing that one, huh?
Well, it just goes to
That's
show.
markets.
It just goes to show the recklessness in what they produce. Right? Think about it. I mean, I remember the day that they signed the NDAA Act in 2011. It was literally the last day of 2010. It was December 31st, 2010, or was it 11? I can't remember. It
Somewhere in
was
there.
it was the last day, uh, because it was the craziest thing that I was like, what in the fuck? Um, it was either 11 or 12. We'll find out shortly. Yeah, guess so. Mm, nope, 11. So there we go. So it was 2011, but I remember they did it on the last day of the year, which was peculiar to me,
Yeah.
right? Because it was like, well, why would they wait till the last day of the year? Oh, of course, nobody's watching.
Nobody's watching.
Nobody's watching, and
Yeah,
that's
they
why they
like
do
that.
their headline releases at 5 p.m. every day, and their nasty right press releases at 5 p.m. on Friday because the market isn't going to react,
Yeah.
right? So on Friday, Eastern Standard Time, of course, New York time. Um, and that's how the things have evolved, So
Which was wild to think about is
yeah,
just how different the traditional markets would be if they would have allowed 24/7 trading long ago and weekend trading, and they didn't operate it as some sort of weird business. Like it is quite strange that the markets don't operate 24/7.
it is right
Like quite
because
strange, quite perplexing.
well, you know what it is. It gives them time to do what they have to do, also,
Of
right?
course, to
So
stage the narrative and to kind of try and keep a hold on things. So again, like these are all pieces. Just listen to what we're saying throughout this entire stream now. These are all pieces to put together a story, right? So
right,
why would they have to do that? If this was a true free market, why would they have to? Why does Jerome Powell even have to talk? Why does he have to come on and look extremely nervous sometimes and talk about transitory this, transitory that, tapering, right? Like, why does all that actually need to matter? Like, if this was a true, pure, honest, free market, because it's not. Why do they need time to have a weekend off to frame and craft narrative, to attempt to keep control of what's going on with the markets themselves? Because otherwise, utter chaos would ensue.
Correct.
So again, tells you what you're up against. Like that right there is another great macro definition of what you're up against.
Right. I mean, again, right, like crypto, let's do it for the people just because I love to do this all the time. It's always find the definition of what a cryptocurrency is because people love to act like they know, but they really don't. And I haven't done this
That
in a long
first
time.
line, that first two sentences.
First line, that's
you always
right.
read. Yep.
That's it. That's it. There's nothing else.
That's all that matters.
The rest of the paper is irrelevant. This is all you need to know.
Yeah.
Take a screenshot, put it on your desktop wallpaper, make it work.
Yeah.
But this is what's going on. This is what a cryptocurrency is. So if it's, passing through 30 tunnels just to get to you from somebody else, it's not really a crypto, is it?
Which is kind of funny, that video caught quite a bit of flack. Hex is not a crypto. It was really just a challenge of perspective and a troll trigger to a degree because, it's you can look at it two different ways. Either it is the only true crypto, or it's not a crypto at all. It's both. Correct. Both are true.
It can't be. It can't be that it's either or. It's that both are true. That's true.
Yeah, because of this last part of it, without going through a financial institution, true peer-to-peer vision of electronic cash, right? Yep. That's why it's such a great thing that Hex is not on exchanges. It's not being leverage traded. It's not being blah, 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 because an institution, a exchange represents a financial institution.
Correct.
Did Bitcoin really need to be on all these exchanges? No, actually it didn't. It just needed a way to bring in dirty fiat dollars into Bitcoin. That's it.
That's really it. You remember Liberty Exchange?
It could have been handled without that.
Yeah, you remember the Liberty Exchange from back in the day?
I don't actually. I don't. I came in at Cryptopia. So that's when I first started paying attention.
They were like back in 2008. I mean, not 9.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah, like October 2009. Yeah.
That's pretty early on then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if we look, I mean, a lot of the big issues with Bitcoin and with crypto is kind of focused around exchanges.
Yeah.
A lot of money's been lost on exchanges. A lot of money from not only hacks, but liquidation candles on Binance.
But notice what happens when those hacks, those liquidations, and whatever else happens. What happens? Oh, magically, all of a sudden, we need regulation over here. Regulators, please come save us. Regulators this, regulators that. Isn't that so coincidental? I find it all so much so coincidental.
Yeah.
How is that? Every single time. You got to sit here and tell me that's not orchestrated. Come on, man.
Oh, yeah. And it's like, it doesn't have to be like this big group colluding. Like, dude, it's just CZ. It's just CZ trying to get rich. And I've said this for quite a while now, but I maybe first started saying it 2020, early 2020, is I just started realizing some things with the market, right? As soon as BitMEX essentially crashed the market because their liquidation engine failed in March. I think that was March. And so essentially, after that, Binance started getting really popular. It was right before FTX came along. And I just started to, I guess I had an epiphany, I had an aha moment, whatever. And I'm just like, you know what, the CZ guy is trouble. And he does not have your best interest at heart. He's trying to siphon maximum amount of money out of the markets, and he will roll over on a dime if he's ever caught. I mean, just look at the guy. Like, you think he's going to uphold your data?
Nope.
Come on, he's already sold your data. They got backdoors into that. I guarantee the NSA got backdoor into Binance already. They do in Coinbase, but at least you kind of know that. Like, it's Coinbase doesn't come out and say like, no, we're not selling your data. They basically come out and said, look, we're gonna cooperate with governing bodies that request data. Binance, that guy comes out and says, no, I'm not giving up your data. Like, you trust that scrawny guy, like with his mannerisms and body language, to uphold your data? Come on, dude.
Yeah, you're kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, I mean, it's
But yeah.
just we were talking about what's a crypto and what's not a crypto, right?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
And this is the thing. Even RG3's right has been kind of playing with that narrative that Hex isn't even a crypto. It's something much superior because in reality, it's its own financial ecosystem, right? I mean, in
yeah,
a lot of ways, it replaces the whole yield curve. Like it replaces the whole U.S. Treasury yield curve because it's essentially a safe haven asset. It's always paying you. It functions better than U.S. Treasury. It's always running. It's never down. It's always on. Right? Like you can always extract value from that network. It's never even been down. Right? Like it's always running 100% of the time. Even the Treasury market breaks. Right? Broker tech breaks down all the time.
yeah,
So, it's these simple facts of life that give us perspective for those of us that actually are fortunate enough to have it and can understand the superiority in something like Hex because Hex is simply superior, right? And here's the thing, like most people, when they first find something, they don't respect it. They have to ensure that they can find that respect, right? And for me, it was the same thing. When I first discovered Hex, I spent 60 days trying to find a hole in that motherfucker. And the only thing I hated after those 60 days that really made me dislike Hex to a certain degree was the fact that it was an ERC20. That was the
yeah,
biggest issue I had with it.
yeah,
And here we are today suffering because of that same issue. Right. So in part I was right, but it is what it is. I get why he did it. And by he I mean Richard Hart. But it's prompted him into take. Oh, come on, give me a second, man.
yeah. They come for him. Yeah, and so it's like, okay, so to take a step back is Hex fits within the financial system, within the financial structure, right? In that ecosystem, in that niche, in that market, it fits within that, but it is its own thing,
Yeah,
right? And it represents like what we're all after, which
right,
is sovereignty and freedom.
correct.
It's as simple as
Because
that.
anybody can come and interact with the system and get rich. Anybody.
Yeah.
There's
And so
no
you wonder
no
why, like,
there's no
you wonder why
limits.
some people are so like so kind of like fanboy with Richard is like, if you've made life changing money, how could you not?
Yeah. How
Like,
could
how
you
could you
not?
not? You know
How
what I
could
mean?
you
So
not?
you know already where somebody stands by how they react to how they react to people having a strong affiliation to Richard,
Yeah.
is because they're like, if you're reacting negatively towards that or like you're a fanboy or this or that, it's like, wait a second, if that guy just made 10 million, 100 million, whatever number, right? His whole family and his whole life, his whole legacy has changed because of this thing. Holy shit, how could you not be like that, right? So
For
it's like,
sure.
again, perspective is everything. So, maybe just take a second, breathe that one out, and think it through. Um, before commenting on that, because it's like
Yeah.
it actually make it extremely hard to be normal around that guy if he made you hundreds of millions of dollars, would it not?
I mean, he's doing it for all of us,
Right?
right?
Exactly.
And I think like
Unrealized for many.
right, unrealized, sure, but a lot of us have extracted value from this system, right? Like, and we're seeing it, right, with the hex
Yeah.
flexes. The hex flexes ain't coming out of thin air,
Yeah. True.
right? They're not coming out of thin air. People are selling those hex and they're flexing, baby, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, I think we got to realize that the whole objective of this game is to make new whales, right? So people that are selling now, they're gonna pay the price for that.
Yeah.
Even though they're flexing, congratulations. I've sold some hex. It's okay. I buy hex to sell hex because it's basically my bank account. And I've
Yeah.
said it numerous times because there is no better bank account. In my mind, I don't even care if I take an L. Like, I'm willing to take the L because I know I'm going to get it back. So to me, it's not an issue because all that means there's more X's in the future. Like, okay, let's look at this damn hex chart because here we have a W, right? This is very simple.
Are you about to break the W bottoms out on him, huh?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right. Let's do it.
Because people need to understand what's about to come their way, right? Because it's important. There's a W. And man, this is an even bigger W, actually.
Forming right now.
Fuck. Yeah. I mean, this
Forming
is
right
crazy.
now.
Yeah. Much bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at this. This is crazy.
Yeah, zoom in on where we're at right now. Zoom in on where we're at. Maybe let's jump to like a weekly chart
Uh,
because
weekly
the
chart.
month just rolled over, so we got some fresh data in front of us.
Oh man.
Zoom in on that. What's that look like? What's that look like? It looks
Wow.
like to me a low with a higher low.
Yeah.
Again, just keeping it real simple. Keeping it real simple in this area, right there. Okay, we got that. Look at those wicks. Okay, we got that low, and now we're putting in higher low.
Yeah, this is
What's that mean?
14.6. This is 14.66. This November 8th low, and this is on a weekly basis. Each candle is a week. And right now we're starting a new week. Today is the 1st of December, and the week started on the 29th. So last week's low was 15.3. So far, with a current weekly low of 15.94, we're still above. So
Yeah.
we're still progressing higher, making higher lows, and that means that the bottom is rounding out so far.
Well, and the reason why is because after a sell-off, you're looking for a market to start to put together a structure and tell you a
Yeah.
story. And what is that story going to be? Are we going to keep selling off, or is this it? And so now that we've had the sell-off, now we're starting to get a story. We're starting to get a pattern emerge out of this. And so what the pattern so far is telling us is that we're getting to the end of this, right? Momentum is flipped. Yeah, the sell pressure has pretty much turned. So they have maxed out their efforts, and we're starting to go the other way. So now jump down to like a 3-day. Let's look at the 3-day. This is what I start
Um,
with, by the way.
on
Let me
this
explain.
one, I can't even do it 3 day. I gotta go to this one. Hold on.
Okay. So let me explain something. When you're looking at a weekly chart, you're seeing a much higher macro level than when you're looking at a 1 minute chart, right? We all understand that. So a weekly chart is telling you like what's about to occur in the weeks to come. A day chart is telling you what's to come up in the days to come, what to expect. So when we see things like divergences and momentum shifts, blah, 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 right, that's your time frames. Yeah. So we just checked out weekly and look at our momentum down at the bottom. Look at that MACD. You see how it's getting thinner red,
Yeah.
lighter red? And the island is getting smaller, right? So I look at this real simple, make it real fun and simple. That's an island. We got positive islands and negative islands, right? And so what's happening now is the negative island is wearing out itself. And so the momentum is starting to shift. And so we got the lighter red starting to creep in. And next what we're going to get is smaller and smaller islands as it flips its way back to green. Yeah, that's what you should expect. So now go down to like a 3-day.
And here's
This is
RSI
like real
also
simple
doing the
stuff.
same thing here.
Well, extremely oversold. Extremely oversold. And look at this. On a 3-day, we're already starting to see the trend has shifted. So we've got the red island all the way down on MACD. Negative island has now flipped, and we're starting to build a positive island. You see how simple you can make this?
Yeah, real simple, real simple.
Real simple,
Real
real
simple.
simple. And look at that. Let's go back to the candles. Look at the candles, and we can start to look at what the story here is giving us. But it looks like it's flattening out, don't it? Like the bouncy ball has now come all the way down, bounce, and it's out of air. And now we're
Right.
starting to get kind of like this settling where the ball is just kind of rolling. Doesn't it kind of look like that? Kind of feels like that? Like
Correct.
we're just kind of swooping down now. We're
Yep.
going to just kind of chill
Because the
here for maybe
ball
another
is
day.
no longer really coming down here.
Yeah. Right? So, I mean, on a 3-day chart, what's that telling us? Well, it's telling us that momentum has shifted. It's telling us that there's a change about to happen. And then now we're kind of like flat. And what you can expect is now for the momentum to probably start moving the other way. How big, how long, who cares? We're just talking about right now, data in front of us, right?
Yeah.
The momentum is shifting. It's that simple.
I mean, look, this was the last time we had a lot of selling in HEX, right? And all we did from there is really just go up. And we were battling with a lot of inflation coming out of the system at that time. We don't really have that issue anymore. So once all this selling is done, well, you already seen what it does. What do you think is going to do next time when there's less sellers in the system that just don't have millions of HEX to sell? And here's the
Yeah.
thing. All this selling could continue through January maybe. But
Yeah.
after that, that's kind of it.
Well, here's what I'll say from what I've noticed is the HEX market tends to move really slow in comparison to Bitcoin. And it's just simply because it's a smaller market. Now, understand that as, it's kind of funny because a lot of people are like, man, we just need more people into the system. You need to onboard more people, blah, blah, blah. Yes, understand that two things are going to be affected by that. The ability to read the chart is going to be affected by that, for better or worse. And Secondly, is that your APR is going to go down
Yep.
because the more people that open up stakes, the lower the APR becomes. So yeah, well, it's a good thing right now. Enjoy it right now is I guess my point in that, because right now it's a very easy market to read and it's very slow. Like the entire move that from the breakdown happened from September 8th to October 9th. You had a month to figure out that momentum was breaking down and price was failing to close above significant levels, right? And so we got to see that slowly play out, like in your face every single day. You got to see it. So it allowed you plenty of time to make a move. And so yeah, just keep that in mind. So this market tends to move much slower than like Bitcoin. Bitcoin will finish a move in like a day, whereas Hex could take weeks to finish that move. So expect that this move is probably just starting to finish, right? And then what comes next. But one more thing I want to point out here is all the way at the bottom. Just leave the chart where it's at. You see our volume? It's like a straight line down. So if we run a trend line down that volume, volume has completely died off, which is a good thing because when volume dies off and settles, usually big volume comes in again.
Yep.
So volume tends to look like that. Yeah, look at that. Look at that right there. So volume has completely died off.
Oh, where'd the line go? There it
There it
go.
is. So yeah, that will change, right? As
Yep.
more players come into the market, and it's gonna be funny because it's gonna coincide with a move probably to the upside. Like odds are stacked to the upside right now at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
It's just basic things I've pointed out.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because the way I view the market is a little different. I look at it more as a pure market, and what that means in my mind is that you have people that are intentionally buying and selling, right? There's no third intermediary here making a market or looking to do anything. I mean, a liquidity provider here is purely just there uh, and gaining in the respect of earning fees. They don't make or break anything whether you buy or sell, right? Like it doesn't make or break their day. They're still earning fees, and that's it because they're just simply providing liquidity on both sides. So there's no bias action with respect to the so-called market maker in this market. So what that does is that it nets out the psychology to one of pure buyers and sellers, right? And what that ultimately means is that the action that we see when we're going sideways is just lack of interest from the market in terms of both selling and buying. And you can just get reduced activity, right? That causes the market to go sideways for a long period of time, and it's like pain, death by a thousand cuts, as we like to call it in the legacy markets. And then all of a sudden, you get these freaking 10x's, right? That happen in a minute, a matter of minutes, right? And that's just how that market moves, and that's because it's moving based on activity, right? And that's why I view it like that because you typically get these kind of runs because people are or entities are transacting in the network, and you do end up seeing it in the T-share count and in the APY and whatnot. And lately, the T-share count has been going down, and the APY has been kind of creeping up, which I don't mind honestly. But it's true what you say. When they come running, it's game over, right?
Yeah, so I think like I agree with you 100% in terms of like how to look at this market right now at this point in time is it's a very pure market.
Yeah.
So it's like if you want to know what side you sat on in participated in with the last move down, is were you buying or were you selling? And there's your answer.
Right.
So you're participating in this market. Were you screaming from the rooftops that it's over? You were right. The scam is in. That was the top pull, exit liquidity, whatever. Insert whatever term you want there. Was that you, or were you just over there salivating and getting your buys ready? So you're playing a
Right.
part in this market. You can see that in the price action. People are price. Price is people.
Yep, that's pretty much it, man. And that's kind of the thing, right? And once you understand exactly what's happening in the market, you can kind of take that slanted view of why sentiment is the most important thing. And that's why we can take a look at, articles like this and be like, yeah, this is us winning because this is them saying they're coming into our playground to see what they can do because they don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
Simple, right? Issuing a CBDC will constitute a significant step for a central bank since they may require a completely new payment infrastructure, possibly using new technologies. In contrast, the other approaches are more familiar to central banks as they represent incremental improvements in the regulatory framework and technical features of payment systems. So this is just essentially software upgrades for them, right? Whereas here they would have to learn how to use a blockchain because they're that slow, or at least they're pretending to be, right? I don't put anything past these folks because clearly they know what's going on, right? Let's not be stupid. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
I wonder at what stage they're actually at in creating the whatever it's going to be, the Fed Now coin, whatever name they're going
Fed
to go with,
now,
right?
Fed now.
Like at what stage they are, because publicly they're saying that they're like 3-4 years off. There's no way they're that far off. No way.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't believe it either.
Nah. Like it's more like what I think happens in terms of like a cycle is it's more like, oh shit, this new thing came out. Okay, we try to fund it. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, let's start to research it, and then we're going to try about regulation. Okay, that's getting us somewhere. Not quite there yet. Okay, so let's go full on and start to develop our own, and let's try and regulate this one simultaneously. And that's kind of where we're at in that cycle. And I might be missing some steps there, but that's kind of like the general gist
Yeah, it's fine.
of
Same
what's
difference.
occurred, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important for us to speak about these concepts at a high level so that people can then go and figure out the details themselves. Because that I think is, I think is the best way to go about it because we all learn things at our own speed. Um, well, I know when I was learning all this stuff, it was difficult because I had to connect so many dots. I mean, I used to sit there and watch the market trade all day, and that's how I would connect a lot of dots because you would see things happen at a certain time, and then you would read and as to what was happening, and that's how you would connect certain dots. It's just a different process nowadays, right? You don't have to do all of that. Um, Now you got people that can tell you the shortcut, so you should probably listen because it's easier that way. Trust me, and just
Yeah.
confirm, right? Just confirm because that's the point.
Yeah,
It's
I'd
not.
say like my journey's been like that, but with one big difference is that then there's been my emotional bullshit that's gotten in the way
Oh
at
yeah,
every single
same,
phase and every step. And then
same,
I had
same,
to
same.
step off to the side and handle that and get that fixed. And then it's like,
Correct.
okay, now let's come back to the learning table. Now
Yes,
let's come back
sir.
to understanding. And let me now go back to data I thought I knew,
Yeah.
things I thought I understood, and look at it through this new lens. And it's like, oh my God, then you find all kinds of new stuff that was right there in plain sight that you didn't know existed because you didn't want to look.
Yep. It's so dude, we're literally one of the same because that's basically what happened for me. Literally.
Yeah,
It's like you fall down and if you want, you get back up. If not, well,
cool,
you
just chill
suck.
there.
Yeah, you suck.
Stay there as long as you want, but
Yeah.
people can eventually walk by and be like, "Yo, dude, why are you still sitting there?"
Right. You got to get your ass up and do it again. And that's just the reality, right? And this is the thing. When you sit here and you look at the fact that something like this actually is happening, where they're admitting to needing to get involved, that should give you reassurance in where you currently have your assets
Where you got your
focused.
focus? Yeah, where you
Yeah,
got
where
your
you got your
focus?
money focused, right? Where you have your value focused.
Yeah,
Because this is them saying, all right, we throwing up our hands. We got to get in this shit.
yeah,
Literally.
100%. We have
Literally.
no
And
choice now.
that's,
We have no choice now but to
they
get in.
have no choice. That's right. And then you see these Indonesian banks, etc. Like, what is going on, right?
Yeah, which
Like,
is what's funny is like scams are rife in Asia, man. Because
oh,
I'm in Asia right now.
I
Fuck,
already
dude. Like,
know. Oof.
BitConnect, USI Tech, all those big ones from back in the day, they were huge out here. You can't even talk about that shit out here because got a lot of salty people who lost a lot of money.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
they even do scams on
Asians
each
don't
other.
love losing money, bro. They get
No,
super mad at that shit.
yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they get super mad at that shit, bro. Like,
They
they
run
be.
they run investment scams on each other here, from like village to village. It's actually quite
Damn.
hilarious to watch because like they don't think nothing of it. And so basically, what happens is
Oh
a
my
bunch of
god.
people. So get this, it's quite sad actually. It's a bunch of people from the village will put up their money and like to a guy who they trust, and that guy will then start to leverage that. So tell me if you've heard this story before. So that guy will then go out and try and invest in other villages and pool together with other villages to then put their money towards something. And so they are then pooling their money together to somebody that they trust, that they want to put all the money in. And that just keeps occurring over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and fractionalizing the shit out of that, and complicating something that doesn't need to be that complicated. And then, rug pulls happen all the time, call it a rug pull, but it's basically like a guy runs off with the money. Maybe it could be a development that they get involved in, who knows, right? Maybe something falls through. A lot of times there's like Chinese parties involved, which there's always shady actions because, they've got 3-4 sets of books every time for a business. So you don't know which set of books you're getting. And so, yeah, then the whole village will get rug pulled. But it's like, what people like, you need to know that, because now how big could that get and how bad could that get? Well, when Corona hit, is everyone basically got rug pulled. So now imagine every single village got rug pulled at the same time, just about the same time, because everyone lost the money, ran off with the money. I don't have the money. I had to pay my bills. My daughter needed this. Oops, I dipped into the fund. Oops, I robbed Peter to pay Paul, and I don't have it anymore. And that happened at a mass scale here, which is why in some of the countries, the fallout from that market dip was so bad because of the ripple effect. But you never heard about that on CNBC, did you? You never heard about the fact that it was 10 times worse for emerging markets because they do stupid shit like this.
Yeah, no way.
I mean, is this not a Ponzi that I just described? I mean, is this not 100%. Like a greater fool theory that I just described?
100%. That's exactly how it works. Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
Here's what's funny, and let's tie it all together now. They still do it. They still do it right now. I could go walk down the block and do it right now. Give them my money, and they gladly take it, and they still do it. So this is why, in the beginning of the stream, we talked about tonality, and we talked about sometimes you got to get in people's face to convey a message, because you know what? Unfortunately, sometimes people don't want to listen. And so if you got people doing the same dumb shit over and over and over again, what changes? Well, nothing, unless, change the input, change the output.
Right.
So like sometimes it's needed, like we can only be calm and collective for so long with some of these things because there is no time to waste.
Right.
I mean, the game has changed. The game is faster now.
Yeah, and that's kind of like why the tone of the message that I'm bringing has changed a little bit, right? Like, it's not so much let's tone it down. It's more so let's speed it up and make it so that everybody can understand. Because we're at a point where there are people that just don't even know that cryptocurrency exists, and they don't understand the importance and the significance of cryptocurrency and why they need to make sure they're allocating their fiat to it however little possible, right? Because it's going to save them in the long run. Because what if those 100 hex are something in the future, right? What if? But what if you don't put that money in there? That's a bigger what if that I don't want to take my chance on, So
yeah, 100%. So it's like that's everything. Everything we just talked about is related to what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. It's all about probabilities, right? And the probability for that is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's kind of crazy because, I mean, let's talk about Madoff for a second, right? Like that dude was even chairman for the NASDAQ. People don't even talk about that. Did you know that?
Yeah, I think I remember seeing that in some documentary or something that hit after the fact. I saw like a couple years back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was even chairman at the NASDAQ, bro. Bernie Madoff. Right. And this is what passes for standard quality. You understand? This is what they consider good business over there. And it's just like if it looks good, it's good. That's it. It doesn't have to be good.
Well, right. and again, like we talk about trust and trust factors and trust variables. Well, somebody putting on a suit and showing up on TV and sounding smart is a big trust badge, right? And so people tend to trust that. But I can assure you that Jim Cramer, who gets on his show and tries to, I know he's so fucking stupid, rolls up his sleeve and tries to look like a working man, but he's yelling and he's in your face and he sounds smart. That guy is a fucking retard. And he was telling you not to sell at just about every point in time you should have been selling. So just, understand what you're dealing with. The fact that, people in position of power at the banks show up in a suit is because they know what that does. Now, just imagine if they showed up in flip-flops and sandals and shorts and, Hawaiian, top of some sort.
Right.
And he's got his cabana hat on, and Jerome
Not
Powell's up
gonna
there
be.
talking about transitory inflation.
Yeah.
Would you believe it? No. Fuck no, you wouldn't. So then why are you believing it now?
Correct.
Look away. Listen to the words, but look away then.
Doesn't
Right?
even make any sense, right?
It doesn't. Like, the shit that comes out of that guy's mouth literally makes no sense. He says nothing about nothing for 45 minutes to an hour. I'm impressed, genuinely, that you could do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like how can you talk that much nothing for that long? Much respect.
Exactly. And then he answers, like, he's so calm and resolute in this position of talking about nothing as if it's truth, that he's able to field questions. He's able to communicate and converse with a live audience. Like, it is impressive. It is impressive.
He definitely knows how to juggle that act.
For sure. And they all do.
Yeah.
And they all do. So that isn't some beacon of truth, just putting on a suit and talking on TV and sounding good, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's so, like, there's so many of those beliefs that we have to break, right? Because when we started this, somebody said, hey, Jay, why don't you have an avatar? There you go. There's your answer. Like, if I showed up in a suit and just said everything I just said, how much would you be like, oh, man, this motherfucker knows exactly what he's saying, dude. He gets it. I mean, there's been some people saying that along in the chat, but I'm just saying, like, if I were wearing a suit, how much better would everything I've been saying sound? If Wells is wearing a suit, how much better would his shit be sounding? Would you really be, so butthurt about the delivery if he was wearing a suit and showing his face? I don't think so. I don't think so, dude.
It's funny. People give me shit about not showing my face still to this day. And all I've done is make them money, bro. It's fucking hilarious, right? I mean, yet and still, right? But that just goes to show that some people will just never focus on what matters. They will always focus on bullshit. So that's why you have to.
It's kind of sad, because like to kind of throw a narrative in there that is an unfortunate truth that it's an uncomfortable truth that nobody likes to admit, is that it depends on how you look too. It's going to depend on your skin color. It's going to depend on your gender.
Yeah.
It's going to depend on your delivery. All that matters, and nobody wants to admit that.
Yeah, because everybody is taught to think a certain way based on all those factors.
Correct. So how are we supposed to get anywhere if we can't even get past that?
Yep. It makes it difficult.
Explain that to me.
It makes it difficult, and that's like even for me, right? Like I'm a Hispanic male, and people think I'm black, right? And I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever. Like it doesn't matter.
Did it matter?
Doesn't matter.
The minute you show your face, the whole dynamic's going to change.
Yeah.
Why does that matter?
Shouldn't matter.
Why the fuck does that matter?
It doesn't.
Does it make what he's saying any more or less true?
Correct. And it does. And that's exactly why it doesn't matter. I mean, my whole argument from day one is, look, you spend your whole life being lied to by motherfuckers that show their faces.
Yes.
Do you really need to see my face? Because I'm not trying to sell you any fucking thing, bro. Like, you don't got to listen to me. Peace. Like, I could care less. I do this for the people that want it. I don't need to do it, and that's just how it is. And whoever wants to learn is more than welcome, because that's what it's about. Everybody adds value in this community however they do. And this is how I do it. And that's just all it is. It's no more, no less,
Yeah. And that's completely fine, and it should be fine.
Yeah, shouldn't even be more than that. Like, yeah.
No. It should not
like,
be
it's so simple, right? Like, I didn't pick this; it just kind of picked me. So we're just doing it. Whatever works.
Simple and stupid at the same time. Right? That's what makes this stuff funny. So you tell me now, how intelligent is the market, right? Like because you come out, right? We come out. We talk about macro stuff, and it's like we were just talking about a W bottom. Like, could a double bottom really be that simple? Nobody's going to fall for that, right? Everybody sees it in a chart, right? It's not going to play out because everyone sees it, right? Sentiment doesn't work because everyone sees sentiment, right? No. Sentiment works because sentiment works.
Right.
For the same reason that they get all butthurt about seeing a fucking avatar. That's why sentiment works. There it is. Right there.
Literally.
So, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, man.
It's so true.
That's what you're up against.
It's literally true, man, right? Because it is one and the same, and people aren't going to want to understand that, but it's a fact.
Yeah, everything we talked about in this stream so far is so deeply connected to itself.
Yep, whether you want it to be or not. because it's just the nature of the beast, right? Like there is no two ways to cut it if you're trying to understand what's true. Because here's the thing. How could you sit here and say no, the market's going to roll over, so you're not going to buy Hex or whatever, you're going to wait for lower prices, whatever the case is. And what happens if the correct bet was to buy? Like what happens? Well, what happens is you got to buy higher prices. And that's all. So the
Yeah.
question is, are you comfortable with buying at higher prices? If so, then you're good. You don't buy now. If not, then you know what to do.
Yeah,
Right?
and I mean, you could always just layer bids in wherever you think it might fall, and
Yep.
now you're protected on both sides, right? So that's about having, a trade plan,
Right.
a plan
It's
of some sort.
interesting. A lot of people complain about not getting their limit orders done.
Yeah, no, so I shot a TA video about Hex the other day. Didn't upload it, but yeah, I was kind of getting prepared for this, and I was talking about that. Is like I tested this out, like because I was just like, okay, what's the average person probably setting limit orders? Let's just test this out. I set a bunch at 100, 200, 500, and I kept refreshing those things. So I set them daily, and I kept refreshing those things, and I played around with 10 to 15% variance of the current market price at the time, which I think was like 20 cents.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, none of them got filled on 1 inch. Not a single fucking order got filled. So I think it has to do with order size. So I don't
Right.
think limit
That's what
orders
I've
work on
heard.
1 inch
That's what
is
I've heard.
unless it's a significant size, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've heard that they have to be sizable, and
Yeah.
that's really the only way to get them filled. So I just use gas limit orders and hope that they don't get busted and become failed transactions.
Yeah. Or you just save some dry powder. And so if it does go lower and you were right, cool, you got it. Or
Yeah,
like you got your cash, like come on in and buy up, more. So
yeah.
pretty
Just do what
simple.
works for you. Yeah, just do what works best for you because it's almost impossible dealing with this cash. I mean, gas. I mean, I literally did a stream the other day going over like the best way to go about staking $500, and the net was you want to at least do 2 years because you'll at least get enough yield back from Hex to cover your initial gas outlay and some. It's
I
not going to
know.
be much, but it'll be something. And that's assuming the price stays at 16, 17 cents, whatever it was at the time. So it's
Yeah.
not even like, you're making much money. You just, we're just talking about making 20, $60 maybe on the back end of that. So,
Yeah,
you
and that,
know,
and again, like that's another one of those ways that Hex just subtly breaks all these molds and these
right.
preconditioned notions that you think you understand. You got to be this trader in the markets, moving, busy, doing stuff, right? Like the movies show you. The movies showed you that you need 10 screens and you got to be yelling on a phone and you got to be constantly in and out of markets all day long. Well, if we just chill, step back, and stake everything based on a ladder, based on a plan, based on what we've already seen the asset performing, then you can remove a lot of that. But like because like even the short term stuff, it's like man, even a 2 year stake, you could still get burnt on that from a price action standpoint. Is that when you're coming out, who's to say it wouldn't be a penny?
Right.
Are you
You
really
never
prepared for
know.
that? Like it could. So like if that's your whole plan, like I'm going to test this thing out and I'm going to do a 1-2 year stake, or you're not doing a ladder of some sort, like this, you might not see the benefit that you really could see if you were to just take a little bit more time and come up with an actual plan and put that into play,
Right.
right? Because who knows what it's going to be on that stake. But then the next one that comes out, maybe because again we're doing a ladder, then the next one comes out, right? So you've got more odds of hitting better price action with the more stakes that you have. Simply put.
Yep.
Because well, for now, I mean, this might change in the future, but I mean, 10, 15 years out, like, are we even dealing with dollars in 15 years?
Yeah, I don't
So, I
know,
mean, you're
man.
really setting yourself up for success because now you might not even have to worry about trying to come out into some sort of fiat,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and okay, so like, how long is the central bank digital currency is going to take to roll out? So, and they're going to have onboarding, so it's going to make it easier for you to get out of Hex into whatever it is that you need to get out of into to pay cap gains tax, whatever it is, withdrawal early,
Yeah, they're gonna make that
retire.
as easy as possible, aren't they?
Of course they are. Of course they are, because they want their money. They want their cut. So again, like you got to be thinking about all this when you're planning, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, for me, it was easy because all I wanted to do was find a way to become a billionaire. So the
Yeah,
math was
yeah.
easy for me. To me, it was just 15-year stakes and whatever else, I'll figure
On
that shit
everything.
out.
On everything.
Yeah.
Yep. And everything in between now and then, I'll figure out.
Yeah, exactly. I'll
Pretty
figure
simple
this shit
plan.
out later.
Pretty
Yeah.
simple plan. I'm setting myself up for the highest rate of success
Correct.
within
That
this thing.
was that was
That's
it.
it.
That was
That's
it.
it.
And I mean, and it's like, all right, well, we already had one damn good example, right? Why not try to go that route again? I mean, let's look at 34 days per candle. 34 days per candle. And this is what it's been doing that whole time.
Ooh, I've never done this chart. I like this. That looks
Yeah.
really good, actually.
Yeah. It's a nice looking chart, isn't it?
Yeah.
So why can't Hex do that?
It is
Right.
the definition of an uptrend.
Yeah.
Look at it. It's the definition of an uptrend. Like when I draw an uptrend, it's a series of higher highs and higher
High
lows. It's
lows,
just a
yeah.
bunch of squiggles. Looks like a staircase. That's exactly what that was. That is
Yep.
funny, dude.
Boom, 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 boom. And then it's just building another one here, maybe.
Building another one, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's an important point, though, is how much pain has been in that chart, though, too.
Yeah.
Imagine buying at 20, going down to 3 just to see 60. But you didn't know 60 was possible. So it's the same thing
Yeah.
with Hex. Okay, you bought in at 40. Can you really handle seeing a penny before it goes up to $20, $50, $1,000?
Right.
Like, come on now.
A lot of people can't. You know, a lot of
No.
people sell out at the wrong time. I mean, look, these are two dips. One was 87%, the other was 84. Right. I mean, are we about to see the start of an 85% drawdown,
What would that
which
be price wise? Let's
is
see.
which is gonna take us to damn
10K? 10K again? Oh, shit.
10K.
That's going to hurt.
That's where
That
Richard
is
gets
going to
his
hurt.
number from. Just for those of y'all wondering at home, 10K.
But I mean, if you really think about it, like once we get past the consolidation of candles that we're in right now, there's free air. There's nothing but thin air
Yeah.
from all the way down to 17K. There's nothing but thin air, and then you start to get some wicks. So 10K isn't out of the question, not at all.
Right. Let's see if we can get.
If the trend flips, of course, is all I'm saying. Yeah, turn on UPVR. I love
I
this
will.
one.
Yeah, I was gonna. I was almost gonna quit on it because it's just annoying sometimes. Let's see. Ticks per row. Number of rows. No, we want ticks per row. Let's try with.
VPVR is a great way for those listening to spot out areas of significance, which can act as areas of support and resistance. Now, instead of thinking of it like some definitive line, like, no, it's $53,642, like try and think of it as layers, areas of interest.
Yeah, I
Because
kind of.
that's
I've
how this
gone
stuff
over
tends
this
to work.
before a little bit. Hold on. Let's see.
Yeah, let's see what these volume nodes are looking like on this. But yeah, very good tool to see.
I guess the 34
volume over
days is
price.
just not gonna work well because there's too much data. Because the data was only so much here.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Oh, that's true. That's true. That's a good
Yeah,
point.
the higher we go, the further in time we go. So the more data there's actually going to be, because the more network effect the market is experiencing.
Yeah.
So relatively speaking, interestingly enough, it's not that much volume up here.
No, not at all. Not at all.
That's kind of crazy. Huh.
Let's see what that 13-day is.
This is 2014 to now. This is crazy. So you still really got a lot of play room here.
Got a lot of room there, right? And we don't even start
Yeah.
seeing wicks until that top over there looking back left. What is that, like 13, 17?
Yeah,
17.
13
Last chart, yeah.
to
So,
19. 13
Yeah.
to 19. So, I mean, and here's the thing. I was talking about this the other day. The market is much more mature now, right? So it could start trading in a much more mature fashion and not just always constantly going up.
yeah. Yeah, true. And
So,
volatility might slowly be getting drained out too.
yeah.
You're gonna have to see, because with these ETFs, like everyone, I remember back to 2017, man, just taking a time capsule back in time here for a second, is everyone was like, oh yeah, futures trading, right? And that was
Yeah, that was
literally
my
the mark at
shit,
the
man.
top. That was the mark at the top.
Yeah.
And now I feel like it's deja vu all over again. It's ETFs, man, ETFs, dude. Go look at J.P. Morgan and the trillions of billions of dollars they've now had to pay in fines for being found guilty for metals manipulation over the last 2 decades. 2 decades, 24 fucking years of manipulating metals. And you know how they do it? They do it through spot
Yep.
holdings and through ETFs, which is paper fake gold. So now you tell me what that means for a 21 million circulating supply. It means that we have just now applied fractional reserve banking to something that had a finite supply, and we've now made it infinite. So there is no more 21 million as the ETFs start to roll out. That is no longer going to be true. And people don't even understand that. They're like, no, that doesn't make sense, Jay. Yes, it does. There's a finite amount, and they've now stretched that by allowing you to come over here and create something that's a fractional piece of this thing, but never real, and trade against that.
Right.
That is changing the supply.
Huh. Sure is. I mean,
So,
that's
like,
kind of crazy when you think about it, right?
it is. So are we going to go and like, is Nomics going to update that shit as ETFs roll out? Because the first
Yeah,
Canadian
well,
ETF just got approved the other day.
we all know that's not gonna happen.
No, of course not. So,
But this is interesting, right? 85% is that next dip. I mean, you got all of these things just happening at the same time, right? You got data just disappointing left and right. I mean, look at
yeah,
this. After hitting pretty much all-time highs, it's coming back into normal ranges, right? And that's drastic. Um, you know,
actually,
here, here.
if you
What's
want to
up?
flick me over the screen, I'll show some stuff.
Sure, share.
I've got some
Knock
stuff.
yourself out. Oh, I
Let me
almost got
see.
to wrap up because I got to stream with
Yeah, I do too.
the Million the Moon
Okay,
Cats.
here we go. Can everyone see my screen? Oh, you got to shut up.
Yeah.
There it is.
Um.
And yes, I am Tab King. Okay, don't even mention it in the comments. I am Tab King. Okay, so there's like 100 tabs open. So check it out. So here is unemployment. So we got claims going down, new claims going down, extended claims going down. Everything's going down, right? So you see this down here, like from Corona highs, right? Everything's
Right.
going down. But yet the workforce is weak. Workforce
Right.
data is weak. How's that possible? Well, and nobody wants to go back to work because they know that it's a fruitless endeavor because there is not enough yield, which is what's been driving the markets.
Yep.
So what has been driving the markets is right in front of your face. It's the stimmy checks. It's nobody wanting to go back to work because they're gambling. They're at home gambling on fucking dog coins. Okay?
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. There's the answer.
Literally.
So here's another look. U.S. initial job claims. We're finally starting to touch lows again. Jobless claims, excuse me. But understand that, like, okay, so this data is truth. Yeah, but how many people are getting in line to just go and tell somebody and raise their hand and say, I don't have a job? How many people where pride is getting in the way and they're not going and reporting that? Or maybe they told their wife they're going to do it, but they never quite made it down to the office today, right? To get those claims. Because now the claims, all the bonus, the big stuff is taken away. So now everyone's really going to come off of it, except if you've already been living on it. Why would you change? So there ain't much that's going to change here, except that those that were freeloading got off the bus, and now they're in the gambling casino of crypto, right? And so, all right, we're talking about U.S. U of M consumer data sentiment index, all trending down, bang bang,
Right.
trending down.
I mean, that's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, and so we don't even need to jump to definitions on a lot of this stuff. Just look at the chart.
Yeah.
What's it doing? So, okay, buying conditions on big stuff. This is a big one. So houses, vehicles, large household purchases like durables, like
Durable
washing
goods,
machines,
right?
refrigerators, etc. How's that looking?
Yeah.
Looking
Delicious.
bad, right?
Delicious.
Real bad. What is this? Inflation expectations. Yeah. And this is my commentary, by the way. This is my newsletter that I write.
I gotta say, I just bought a couch, so I bought a dip on a durable.
That's funny, dude. Well, probably because like cost and financing is probably pretty low right now.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
I would finance shit like that right now. Fuck yeah,
I would,
dude.
yeah.
Money's so cheap.
If you can, hell yeah, you definitely should.
100%, I would. Anyways, I write this. So you want to talk about like being in the mix for a while? I've been writing this shit for 500 issues now, for 3 years. I've been talking about macro. So here you go. Here's your real inflation based off the 1980 original formula of CPI, right? It's near 15%. But you see, they got to alter that because when that starts to make them look really bad, they got to change the formula. They got to remove this. Now CPI is comprised of this. Now CPI is comprised of that. Blah, blah, blah. The game goes on. Purchasing power of main currencies valued in gold from 1971 to 2020. Oof. Big oof. right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Big
new
move.
sales data. I don't think this changed much. Pretty much just starting to tick up slightly, but there's an issue emerging, which is that house prices are going up, new and used, and the demand is starting to drop. So what is this? New family home sale at the end of period. Yep, okay. So starting to tick up. Here's what I was looking for, is the divergence of total new home sales versus median new home sale price. So we start to see a divergence occurring, right?
Right.
But median and average new home sales prices are hitting all-time highs. So demand is going down, prices are hitting new all-time highs. That is a divergence. Not a good one. Not a good
Right.
one at all.
Right.
Yeah, core PCE deflator. I jumped to the highest since 1991. Personal savings rates is a good one to finish up on. Personal saving rates. During Corona, at one point, they hit like a really good high, and everyone was like super optimistic. I think it was like in late 2020, maybe.
Yeah.
And so, but now that's quickly gone down. Quickly gone to shit.
Deflated a bit.
Yeah. 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 Okay? So to cover the comment, is this is a paid thing? I'm not here to shill it. I don't want you to buy it. Please don't buy it. But it's not open to the public. Okay. So you can go to this URL, but it's private, so you got to subscribe to the thing. But anyways, don't worry about it. Don't do it. Okay. So yeah, I think that's it. Oh, I had some funny stuff to share too. Let me share
That's
this. All right.
live.
So this is a thread. Okay. So this is the narrative that's floating around right now. Is you got like this guy Travis. He's saying, okay, another massive month for crypto in November. Please help me understand how a deep long bear market is right around the corner when the breadth and magnitude of capital raises are this huge. Well, I would literally point back to the 2000 tech bubble, and I'd say, there you go, bro. It was the same shit. It was literally the same thing. And if you think it's not crazy and gotten out of hand, let's look at this. I didn't even know all this shit existed. Look at this. This is absolutely wild. So this is one project, by the way. This is a new metaverse project.
Shit.
And this is all the VCs that are involved in this one metaverse project. So you
Wow.
tell me as retail, what is your likelihood of getting fucking absolutely dumped on? Okay, here's the first page.
100%.
Here's the second
That's the
page. I don't
first
even know
page.
what all these are. I didn't even know all these existed. Look at all these.
Yeah,
These are
me either.
all VCs, capital VCs. Zoomer Fund. It's kind of funny, actually. Okay, so what
Yo,
is
what
that?
is
There was a
going
total of
on?
100. 100 VCs are in on this new metaverse project, all with an allocation. Now you tell me, what's the likelihood of you getting dumped on and you making money off that? Okay, well, welcome to traditional markets, because that's about what you get in traditional markets. But it's not so many. It's not 100 funds. It's like 8. And they all got the same plan as these 100 here. They want to make money. So they're going to all say, we're not going to dump. Man, we believe in a project, long-term perspective, super cycle this, super cycle that. But they will not hesitate to dump on you.
Oh, you already know. They show it all
So
the time, right?
so it's like, come on, dude. But yeah, again, this is just telling us where we are in the cycle. So we have people saying like, oh, it can't be the top because roll out the piece of proof. There's all this money flowing in. Well, there's
Right.
all this money flowing in because the whole market, everything right now is hyperinflating. So they're
Correct.
just jumping from project to project, looking for yield to yield to yield. So yeah, the party
Shit,
does
man.
stop. The hot potato does stop.
Yeah, the
I don't know
question
when.
is when, right? But
Yeah,
I
so
mean, it's not even so much when, it's what are you holding when it stops?
yeah, you can't figure out when.
Because you
It's
can't
so hard
really
to figure
figure
out
out
when.
when. Yeah,
Yeah, who cares? Who cares about that? Just like, how are you positioned?
right. That's why it's like you got to figure out what you're holding, right? That's the easiest way to figure that one out because you'll just be ready by that point in time.
Yeah, 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 man. So anyway, I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, guys. So I'm gonna be going with a million and moon in about 20 minutes. You guys go check me out over there. I'm dropping the link in the chat. Oh
cool.
fuck. Hold on, let me
Oh
try that
yeah,
again.
thanks
Um
for having me on.
yeah,
What up?
man. Look, dude, this was great. It was good. Not too much, not too little. We should definitely do it again. Because I think it's a great way to have conversation, make it relatable, and have people understand kind of on a very hierarchical level, like what this macro stuff is saying.
Yeah,
Um, and it's important.
yeah, I
Important.
agree. I agree.
All right, brother. So I play this outro, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
All right, see you guys. Thanks for joining in.
Later, guys. Right? The reality is that I want to be rich as fuck. There's only one way to be rich as fuck. That's by sitting on your ass the longest. That's it. That's the secret. The guy well told you. Richard done told you. I done told you. Kareem done told you. Maddie done told you. Everybody done told you. Everybody done told you. These motherfuckers still acting like they don't know. Appreciate that.
Like this. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
100% safe. There's plenty of games left.
Valiant done told you. Yo, everybody said it. I mean, hey, you know what it is, man? Everybody done told you.